Hi, 7th grade. Welcome to Lesson 1-5, Adding and Subtracting Rational Numbers. Example 1. Add and subtract rational numbers with different signs. Lava flows from an active volcano's magma reservoir located below sea level through the magma conduit. How far is the summit of the volcano from sea level? So we know that the magma is 2 3/4 miles below sea level. Below sea level, is that going to be positive or negative? Negative, good. And we know to get to the top, we have to go up 5 1/4 miles. Going up, is that going to be positive or negative? Positive, good. So over here we have the number line. And it shows where we start and how far we go up to where we finish. You can use the rules of adding integers to add any rational numbers. So negative 2 3/4 plus 5 1/4. We already set that up for ourselves. What's important here is the fact that we can change the order. That is called the commutative property. I remember commutative because of the CO in the beginning, and I think change order. And you can do that when you're adding as long as the signs remain the same. Here the 5 1/4 is positive, so it's positive down there. Up at the top, the negative 2 3/4 was negative, so it's negative at the bottom. So they did this with fractions. I'm more comfortable with decimals, so I'm going to show you what it looks like when you change the decimal to a fraction. Fraction to a decimal. So 5 1/4. 5 1/4. I think of quarters. 1/4 is 25 cents, so that's 5.25. 2 3/4. Well, 3/4 is 75 cents, so that's 2.75. So we can rewrite this as 5.25 minus 2.75. Setting that up, 5.25 minus 2.75 gives me a 0. I have to borrow. Make sure you're borrowing the right way. 12 minus 7 gives us 5. 4 minus 2 gives us 2.50. So 2.5, which is the same thing as 2.5, because 50 cents is half of a dollar. A dolphin is at the surface of the water and then descends to a depth of 4.5 feet. Then the dolphin swims down another 2 3/4 feet. What is the location of the dolphin relative to the surface of the water? So descend, is that going to be positive or negative? Negative. And swimming down, are we going to be adding or subtracting? Subtracting, good. So we have negative 4 1/2 minus 2 3/4. If we are subtracting is the same as adding a negative, okay? So instead of subtracting here, we could rewrite it as adding negative 2 3/4. So going back 4 1/2 and back 2 3/4. Both times we're going back. So is our answer going to be positive or negative? Negative. And again, I'm not a huge fan of fractions, so I'm going to change these to decimals. Negative 4 1/2. Well, 1/2 of a dollar is 0.5. So we got negative 4.5 minus 2 3/4. 2 3/4, 75 cents. So they're both negative. I know my answer is going to be negative. I know I'm going back both times, so I actually am trying to find the total of how far I go back. So to find the total, I have to add them. And you want to make sure you line up your decimals and add 0 if necessary. So I get 7.25, but remember, it's negative. So negative 7.25. Or if you think about it in terms of quarters, 25 cents is 1 quarter. So this is going to be negative 7 and 1 quarter, or 1/4. How are adding and subtracting two rational numbers with different signs related to adding and subtracting two integers with different signs? Well, positive integer plus a positive integer is going to give you a positive sum. A negative integer plus a negative integer is going to give you a negative sum. And when you add a positive and a negative, it depends on which number is bigger. For rational numbers, they are the same rules. So they have the same rules. Just like we just saw in the try it. We had two negative rational numbers, gave us a rational answer. In the example above, we had a negative and a positive, and it just depended on which one was bigger. Example number 2, use properties of operations to add and subtract. The force of gravity added to the force of thrust is the combined force at work on a model rocket. What is the combined force in newtons on the rocket? So we see gravity is negative because it's going down. Gravity pulls you down. And the thrust is positive because it's going up. So here we have negative 0.49 plus 1.5. Here's this commutative property again. They changed the order, but notice that the 1 and 1/2 is still positive and the 0.49 is still negative. Adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So that's how they rewrote this. And then they changed the fractions into decimals. So they have 1.5 minus 0.49. So we do 1.5 minus 0.49. Be sure to line up the decimals. You have to borrow 1.01. So the combined force on the rocket is 1.01 newtons. Try it. Find the sum or difference of the rational numbers. Okay, I want you guys to do this one on your own. Pause the video and we'll come back to check on it. Okay, hopefully you're finished. We've got part A. I want to change them both to decimals. So I've got negative 2.5 plus negative 5 and 6/10. Well, 6/10 is 0.6. Again, if you want to turn a fraction into a decimal, we've got 6 over 10. If I replace the numbers with dots, it looks like a division symbol. So that's your hint to do 6 divided by 10 in your calculator, and you will get 0.6. So now I got two negative numbers. Adding together, I know my answer is going to be negative. So to figure out, I'm going back 2.5 and back 5 and a 6 more. 5 and 6/10 more, so I'm actually going to add 2.5 plus 5.6. 5 plus 6 is 11. 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to be 8.1, but remember we said our answer is going to be negative. So it's negative 8.1. Part B, negative 4.4 minus negative 1.5. Minus negative should give you light bulbs going off. If we have two negative signs next to each other, a double negative makes a positive. So I'm going to change these to plus signs and rewrite it as negative 4.4 plus 1.5. So I changed the 1/2 to a 0.5. Now, I know my two signs are different, so I look for the bigger number. Is 4.4 bigger or 1.5? 4.4. And is 4.4 positive or negative? Negative. So our answer is going to be negative. Now I need to find the difference between them. So 4.4 minus 1.5. I have to borrow. So that's going to give me negative 2.9. Also, if you can get to this point, you also have your calculators at hand, so you should get the same number. Last but not least, negative 135.4 plus 78.5. Change those both to decimals. So plus 78.5. At this point, you can put it in your calculator. Looking at the two numbers, I know my answer should be what? Positive or negative? Negative. Okay. So we've got 135.4 plus 78.5. So I want to find the difference between them. 135.4 minus 78.5. I'm going to have to double borrow. So this gives us a 9, 6, 5, and 1. So 156.9. All right, last example. Example number 3. Find distances on a number line. Ruby looks over the edge of her boat and sees fish 0.4 meters below the surface of the water. If Ruby holds a 1 meter long net at 0.5 meters above sea surface level, can she reach the fish? Okay, so we've got 0.4 meters below. We know that's going to be negative. And she stands 0.5 meters above, which is going to be positive. There are two ways to do this. 0.5 minus negative 0.4 gives us 0.9. Or you can write it the other way. 0.4 minus 0.5 to get the same answer. So the fish are 0.9 meters below where Ruby holds the net. So Ruby can fish with her 1 meter long net, as long as it was under 1 meter. All right, try it. I want you to try this one on your own. When you're finished, raise your hand. We will give you your exit quiz, and have a great day.